Hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar, Recap and Launch of the dialogue series in 2026. We will recap what we did with the onboarding webinars in 2025, so you will get a short summary of that, and then we will outline our plans for next year. So this is the simple program for today. And with us, we have a few speakers. By the way, this webinar will be, of course, recorded. We are recording as we speak and will be made available on the GEO Knowledge Hub along with the presentations. So the program for today is that we start with a strategy, a general introduction from strategy to implementation. That will be done by Marie-Françoise Vadron. And then Kasim Nova will give us a summary of the onboarding, the recap of the 2025 onboarding webinars. I will then introduce or talk a little bit about where we are and where we want to go. And then we have some surprise speakers. Joan Maso will join us and speak about data spaces and GREX, some details. You will understand what it is as we get to that point of the webinar. And then Helen will share with us a few details on the in situ strategy. So that is the program for today. And I will give the floor now right away to Marie-Françoise. The floor is yours.
Hello everyone, so I'm Marie-Françoise Vadron. I worked many years for the French Weather Service, so very operational background. And then for the Open Geospatial Consortium, and now I'm a consultant with Evenflow to support the GEO Data and Knowledge Working Group. And here we talk from strategy to implementation. This is something that it's very important for me to work on very applied guidelines to make things usable and understandable by anyone. So where are we today? And this is the idea of these webinars, is to make you understand what we have done so far, where we are, and how we want to progress to enable any of the participants here and the audience to join us and help in this process. So what are we talking about when we talk about from strategy to implementation? Of course, we talk about Earth observation. This is a GEO webinar. We talk about open knowledge, and we have detailed that in the previous series of dialogue about what is open knowledge. And we talk about data sharing and data management with a special attention on in situ. Whom do we want to target and touch with and engage? Of course, the people from the GEO Work Programme, but also beyond. Because even if you are not engaged with GEO so far, as long as you work with Earth observation, you produce data or you use data, this series of webinars can be important for you, and the documents we work on and the strategy we work on can be useful to you. And how we plan to go from strategy to implementation, this is what we want to discover together. So first, you have to know that we build on strong foundations. As Bente will show a bit later, this working group, this activity has started in 2005. And we have already a series of documents which have been approved over time. And these are data sharing and data management principles, the open knowledge statement, and recently the in situ strategy. And to explain what is that and how to work with that and how we work, we have made a series of onboarding webinars and dialogues that we will also go into a bit further later. So considering the data sharing and data management principles, we have worked on that since 2015. And you can find into the GEO Knowledge Hub 2 publications about that. One document about the value of open data sharing, and one document about the data principles implementation guidelines. These documents are both accessible into the Knowledge Hub, and they're still very relevant, even if developed since several years. You also will find software, the data management self-assessment tool that can help you assess where you are in relation to these principles. And this is very pragmatic and usable software, and it will generate automatically a data management plan. So not only useful to learn and understand about the principle, but also for you to generate automatically a reference document for your project. And also to connect with the teams and understand where you want to go. And then we have created in 2022 a series of dialogue videos on each of the principles and how to go from theory to practice. So what are each of the principles and some examples of their implementation for you to understand what is the principle about and how it has been implemented by people. And these videos are all online on the Knowledge Hub, and you have here the link on the Knowledge Hub. I will later share the PDF of this presentation into the chat because I will introduce a lot of links that you can look at if you're interested in. Considering the GEO Open Knowledge, so the foundational document and the strategy is also one document which have been approved not only by the ExCom, but also by the GEO plenary, which is the GEO Open Knowledge Statement. This statement, you can find, you have a link, excuse me, I don't know what happened. So this document, you can find the link here to find the reference document on the GEO website, and then to explain each of the different approaches to this GEO Open Knowledge. We have created a series of webinars, and these webinars dialogues are also on the Knowledge Hub. And you can also, we went systematically through all the approaches to open knowledge, how they are defined in theory and how they can be implemented. And you can find all that on the GEO Knowledge Hub. Considering the in situ strategy, the document has been approved recently by the ExCom. It's still not approved by the plenary. It will be at the next plenary in May next year. We already have two software to help for the implementation of this strategy, the LibInSitu and the GRX. So you will hear a little bit more about that later. And we have some onboarding webinars that Kalamkas will introduce later. You have here the links to the strategy. This is a presentation, a PPT, but the full document will be online soon. A link to the different software and a link to the onboarding webinar. Then we have more onboarding webinar videos, and Kalamkas will present this onboarding webinar where we introduce everything we do into our working group. So this strategy document, but also the tools and the software and so on, to give you all the resources you might need to connect and work and implement the GEO principles and process. So we see that we have some very foundational, very strong documents which have been approved, reviewed, created by experts, discussed. But we think that these documents and for instance, the strategy, the open knowledge statement, but also the in situ strategy are quite generic and theoretical, and we want to go further to build an implementation documents that will support and foster and facilitate the implementation. Why? Because the success and the sustainability of a project, of a strategy, whatever, is linked to our capacity to listen to your needs, to engage, to involve the community, to grow our team, to make sure that everything we do will be implementable and meets the real needs of the people and is understandable and applies to all the different use cases. So we cannot do that alone. We have to co-design how to go from the strategy here over this gap and create this implementation document. So this is why we don't want to leave you just with the strategy. We want to go further with you. You can see that we try to be pragmatic. We develop software, we develop videos, we try to create a dialogue with the users. But please don't leave us here. Join us and come with us to co-design the bridge we have to make here to go from one side of the mountain to the other. And this is exactly what we want to do, to co-design the tracks that we will use to go from the strategy, the theory, to the implementation of these guidelines. So who do we need to onboard here? If you are a NEO data provider or user, if you are in situ expert, AI expert, GIDTT expert, which is the GEO implementation development task team, national GEOs, regional GEOs, GEO community youth, indigenous populations, any other global, regional, or intergovernmental organization. We need to be interoperable with other initiatives that also work on implementation for in situ, for instance, because we don't want to compete. We want to complement what is done in WMO, what is done in FAO, or wherever, to make sure that what we do is complementary. And of course, we already collaborate with these communities. So to do that, to enable you to engage and come with us, we start this series of webinars. So this is the very first one, where we will make a recap of the onboarding webinars to make you understand where we are and how we work. And then we invite you to a series of webinars in 2026. We have put here the dates and the topics of the different webinars. We call these webinars dialogues because the idea is really to introduce the issue at the start, but then to listen to you, because as said before, our success will depend on how far we can listen to the needs and to the challenges the communities have, to make sure that the implementation document address these challenges and facilitate the implementation. Why is it so important for in situ? Because the satellite community is far richer, and they have more budgets, bigger projects, and their big communities were established, and they have more, I would say, more homogeneous data, very voluminous, very big, but homogeneous. And then they can apply the standards, the encodings, and make their data discoverable and reusable and so on. It's far more difficult for small projects who create in situ, which are much more fragmented, which very often have a small budget to address one research topic and don't always have the time and the budget to make the data discoverable, accessible, and reusable by others. And this is why we have to support this in situ community far more to make sure that they will make this step, which is very important for sustainability. And this is my introduction. So I really encourage you now to listen to Kalamkas that will summarize the onboarding webinar and will make you understand exactly where we are.
Yeah, thank you, Marie-Françoise. And I have assumed that everybody knows who I am. Unfortunately, or fortunately, that is not the case. My name is Bente Liabi. I'm a member of this working group, Data and Knowledge Working Group, and work with Marie-Françoise and Helen and Kalamkas and many more. So Kalamkas, now we want to enter into the recap of all the wonderful webinars, onboarding webinars we had last year. Or this year, sorry.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Bente. Thank you, Marie-Françoise. Today, I will be giving you the overview of the series of onboarding webinars organized by the GEO Data and Knowledge Working Group. And these webinars aim to introduce the new GEO Work Progremme Activities to key tools that the working group developed and boost collaboration within the GEO community. So the first session focused on the core principles behind the Open Knowledge Statement, making it an essential starting point for the onboarding series. Participants were introduced to GEO's mission and the work of the Data and Knowledge Working Group in promoting data and knowledge sharing. I want to mainly focus on the discussion, apart from the presentations were delivered by speakers. So during the discussion, Topics included ensuring trust in repositories through data management principles and certifications. Also, the importance of citizen science data, especially in relation to indigenous knowledge and its interoperability with other types with other data types, sorry. And also, it was highlighted that the value of curated knowledge in the context of AI, with the focus on proper referencing and protecting knowledge reuse. Additionally, there was a feedback from young colleagues from the youth, emphasizing the need for clear definitions and understanding the reliability of curated knowledge, particularly regarding some challenges that youth are facing, like licenses, which is often underrepresented in university curriculum. The session concluded with an emphasis on the importance of collaboration and youth engagement to avoid working in silos. And here you can see some statistics, some metrics on the participant attendance and the GEO Work Progremme Activities and participating organizations attended this session. So it was pretty well attended. You see those hands like with tickets. It's those who registered and got ticket and was onboarded. The second webinar focused on the GEO in-situ data strategy and tools, particularly lib-in-situ and GREX, and addressing the critical role of in-situ data in global data sharing efforts. During the discussion, participants emphasized the need to integrate the strategy within the GEO infrastructure and the importance of coordination by GEO. And it was mentioned that there is a major challenge identified, like there is a lack of a single integrated infrastructure for discovering and accessing critical data on different domains, for instance, on essential variables like essential climate variables, essential agriculture variables, biodiversity, and others. So the need for a clear implementation plan within GEO to improve access to in-situ data was highlighted. Another key point was the importance of identifying data requirements for different GEO Work Progremme activities, and the barriers to data access were discussed with a focus on using the GREX tool to capture these needs. It also encouraged GEO Work Progremme activities to address inaccessible data and emphasize GEO's role in breaking down those barriers. And the development of GEO in-situ data strategy was seen as one solution to address existing challenges around this topic and to identify the gaps related to in-situ data. The session also highlighted the role of all GEO actors, noting the importance of engaging not just member states, but also different participating organizations, also those activities and projects involved in national and regional GEOs to improve data availability within the GEO community. Finally, it concluded with the highlighted also point that to foster this in-situ data sharing through trusted repositories and the role of GEO to establishing the connection between data providers and these platforms and repositories. Next session was focused on the GEO data sharing and data management principles, along with the OPIDOR self-assessment tool. The session emphasized the role of these principles in fostering openness, trust, and interoperability across the GEO community. Discussion session highlighted the importance of encouraging projects to fill out data management plans, and those data management plans can help build institutional capacity to synthesize and extract useful data. Apart from that, it was mentioned that machine actionable data management plans, which can be linked to various use cases through open APIs, and also it was identified as crucial for solving data storage for data storage and sharing challenges. And then it was also noted that data management plans should be tested, released, and used by the GEO community while adhering to GEO's data sharing and data management principles. Additional participants discussed on the integration of institutional capacity into data management plans and the need for tools that track compliance with GEO's principles. Furthermore, the session emphasized the importance of equipping youth with the necessary skills to write and implement data management plans. I think this topic involving youth was almost in all sessions, but I'm highlighting also here that it was mentioned that we need to equip youth with these necessary skills. And finally, the unequal distribution of technical capacity globally was identified as a challenge, and with open standards seen as a solution to improving access and capability. The fourth webinar focused on data and software licensing within the GEO context. The session provided participants with a thorough understanding of licensing principles, and in particular, Creative Commons license. There were speakers from Creative Commons, and the importance in supporting open access and collaboration. During the webinar, there was introduced different types of Creative Commons license, and then there was a real-world case from the collaboration between Creative Commons and United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, and they demonstrated the practical application of this license in collaborative efforts. I think that is a great example how we can do this collaboration and boost these kind of activities. Also, this discussion session covered challenges such as data license compatibility and the mixed use of data with different licenses. And also, participants learned how potential solutions to these challenges and the impact of effective data sharing. And also, to engage participants more in this topic, they were asked to reflect on their own data and software policies. And the last webinar was on how to effectively use the GEO Knowledge Hub. And this session aimed to provide participants with both like user and knowledge provider perspective on managing and sharing knowledge within the platform. There was an overview of the GEO Knowledge Hub explaining the structure, the role in supporting open knowledge sharing within the GEO community. They were also introduced the knowledge packages and knowledge resources concept. And there was a live demonstration followed showing participants to how to navigate the platform, browse the content, search for resources, and with a demo for knowledge providers on how to contribute to the GEO Knowledge Hub. The session included a testimonial from a knowledge provider who shared their positive experience with the platform. And additionally, the discussion focused on how knowledge providers can track the impact of their contributions, such as track downloads and views. Also, there were made some suggestions to enhance the platform with features like notification, ES metrics tracking that I already mentioned, and then also AI functionalities. And then there was some small technical discussion on the importance of managing user roles and accounts, especially when project roles change, and these kind of small technical things. All these webinars was attended by different GEO Work Progremme Activities, GEO participating organizations, and other activities. Overall, it concluded that it was well represented by the geographic location and the organization, and total 116 registrants were GEO onboarded. And then also, of course, you can access all the materials on the GEO Knowledge Hub, together with the recordings of each session and the presentations from speakers. You can follow the link and access the materials for all the webinars. So thank you so much. And Bente?
Yes, thank you so much, Kalamkas. When you see it like that, it's quite impressive what the community has been contributed to this process already. So now we are going to talk a little bit more about what next. I'm going to talk about where we are again, and then where we want to go in more detail. It's going to be a little bit of repetition, but I think that's not going to be a problem. So before we go to state where we are, a little bit of looking where we came from. And there are some milestones you have seen. Many of you have seen this presentation in a different form earlier. And it's a repetition a little bit of what Marie-Françoise was saying, but it all started actually in 2003 with a series of Earth observation summits that concluded in an establishment of GEO. And here you see on the top right, you see the first open data sharing principles. And you see the reference document and the first strategy document, implementation document, sorry. So in 2015, we actually reinforced and strengthened the openness of open by default. There's the big difference between the first set of open data sharing principles and the current one, the GEO data sharing principles. What happened with that is that it was developed into the data management principles as a means of how do we implement the open data sharing principles. Exactly the same procedure or process we are about to embark on now with the in situ strategy and the open knowledge statement. We got a new strategy as well in 15, and then here you see for the first time the open knowledge statement. There are 11 principles, we might call them, that we want to transform into actionable implementations. And the GEO Knowledge Hub was also established in 21 and has grown in popularity, I would say. And then the current GEO strategy is Earth Intelligence for All. That was approved in 23. And here we are with the GEO in situ strategy. I show you this timeline again so that you get a sense of where you are in time and space. The in situ strategy was approved by ExCom, as Marie-Françoise was saying, and we expect that to be approved also by the plenary. This is the formal procedure of GEO. Now, where do we go from here? We are going to make implementation plans. And these are the two main documents, strategies and principles, the in situ strategy and the open knowledge statement. We started to discuss the open knowledge statement. We have gone through that in more detail in former dialogue series. They are all available on the GEO Knowledge Hub. The in situ data strategy will be we will be starting from a bit more from scratch, I would say, compared to the open knowledge statement. I want to remind you that not only did we go from open data, the open data sharing principles to data management principles, but we also made a very detailed guidance document. I think, Marie-Françoise, you had found it, so it's a link to that in your presentation that you just shared with everyone in the chat also. So you can click your way through that guidance document, because something along those lines is what we are aiming for with the implementation plans. So this is what we plan to do together with the widest community as possible. So who and how are we going to do that? On the right side here, you see this is a cutout from a presentations that Helen and Joan made for earlier this year, I believe, where they have identified the key stakeholders. You can also refer to Marie-Françoise. She went through some of the key stakeholders in her presentation, but here is a detailed a little bit more. So those are key stakeholders that we really need to engage with in order to make the implementation plans in the quality that is needed. So, and we are using, of course, the GEO is very well situated, positioned to do this because of the vast global community of users and providers of Earth observations, and the convening power, you have heard many times, is one of the virtues or the key assets that GEO has. Now, here again, the 2026 dialogues that will be have the we have planned it with the dates here. So save the date is going to be important for you to be able to join this. Marie-Françoise already went through the content of each of these webinars. Of course, they will be developed further by those experts that has volunteered, and we already have several volunteered to coordinate and co-design the content of this dialogues. But it's and I cannot repeat this often enough, we are a transparent and open community, so we welcome anybody who has an interest in engaging in these kind of activities. You are more than welcome, both to the GEO Data and Knowledge Working Group and to the individual dialogues. And you see here the people here is, of course, the people that are engaged in the GEO Work Program at large. And as Marie-Françoise already said, we also want to engage with people beyond GEO, because not everybody is aware of GEO. Not everybody doesn't know how to engage with us. We see this dialogue series, the dialogue series in 2026, as a nice opportunity to engage even beyond the GEO community. So, you see here that we have a series of dialogues, and you see the endpoint, the temporary endpoint is the GEO Symposium, which will be in end of May. And the plan is to have a first draft of the implementation plans for the GEO Symposium so that we can discuss it openly with the community that will gather there. So that's the first sort of milestone for the implementation plans. And I think that was it for me now. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask.
Bente,
Yeah.
can I ask you? I actually wrote it in the chat, but I've seen that you have this dialogue on in situ satellite and citizen science. Do you have already some, I don't know, concept note or something to know more about it? Because I think I would be interested from some of my project perspective as well on how to collaborate with this, and if relevant, of course, on what you will be presenting.
So what do you mean in situ satellites? You mean private
Sorry, in the
satellites?
timeline, in the final slide, you had the dialogue that you're gonna do next year, and there was one. I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood.
No.
It was one called the in situ satellite, I think.
It's interoperability bent between satellite
and citizen science, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have no problem? Do you already have some content about these dialogues, any agendas, or all these dialogues built already on work that you've done before?
The plan is to build on, Kalamkas was summarizing the
on what
onboarding.
You've done.
Yeah, so that is relevant. But as I said, we really want people to engage, to help us design also the individual dialogues. This is why we have this launching now, so that people who has ideas, has problems they want to discuss, challenges, we want to hear them so that we can incorporate them in the dialogues and let them be a part of the discussion.
Okay, perfect. So maybe I would go back. I don't know if there is any summary of this dialogue you did in 2025 to see if it's relevant for me and for some of my projects.
Yeah.
Where there is interoperability between citizen science and in situ and the usage as well of satellite data. So I think it sparks me because this project on which I'm on it is not actually connected to GEO, and I would like to make this this link. So maybe this could be like maybe a beginning of understanding how to connect with GEO for this.
And then
this project.
You brought specifically this up, Francesca, the digital twins, the ILIA digital twins of the ocean. We have had some explicit work on integrating in situ data in applications and services like a digital twin together with satellite data and other types of data. So there are some
for sure. I have
expertise on this.
Yeah, perfect. A colleague of mine is an Oceanius and connected with Edito indeed to collaborate. Thanks, Bente.
And Helen wanted to add something.
Yeah, so I was just interested, Francesca, whether there was some element of citizen science in what you were working on as well, because one of the things that we are really keen on, and I'll say a little bit more about this in a moment, is to highlight the importance of citizen science in this wider landscape. And so if you actually have some interest in this, or you have some use cases, I would love to have an exchange with you, Francesca, because somebody or you or somebody in your project might be exactly the right person that we can engage with to develop that aspect of this dialogue as well. So some of what I've been doing is been talking to Indigenous communities in the US who have an interest in situ, but if we can find some broader use cases, that would be fantastic as well. So maybe I'll put my email address in the chat,
Thank you, Ellen. So I will reach out
and see, what we might be able to bring together.
Yeah, this project is called Enforce. I'm actually supporting my colleague who's now in maternity leave, but I'm taking over this. And it's really about citizen science applied to environmental compliance, so to make... So maybe this could actually be very interesting. And ERSC, ERSC is the European Association of Remote Sensing Companies. So our role is to bring eventually the usage of commercial satellite data to support some of these citizen data. And then maybe, Bente, I'm also throwing this out. I'm now exploring as well the concept of data readiness level within this project. So to really understand how, yes, data, which can be citizen data or satellites data, is actually ready to be used as a clear prime proof to any kind of courts at European level. So to understand if these data are actually ready. So I think that indeed, there's very nice ideas behind. So I will. Enforce is the sister project. Yes, thank you, John. Indeed. Okay, perfect. So I see the connections already then.
Yeah, and so OGC is working also on this in terms of creating standards, actually data models. So in Iliad, the digital twins of the ocean, it was ocean data. So we had the ocean information model, and using that actually together with some other methods as well to integrate citizen science data together. And this model is, OGC is working on that. It's developed under the umbrella of OGC, and it's based on the agriculture information model. So there are a community working on information models, and those are sort of a part of the gateway. It's not the entire solution, but it's part of the gateway to integrate and make the data in citizen science data integrated and interoperable with other data. But Joan, you know very well that we had in GEO earlier a working group or an activity specifically dedicated to citizen science. So maybe it's time to revitalize that group. I don't know, Joan, you can take the floor if you like.
Yes, yes, we had this activity in the past. Well, we speculated with Paola that should be integrated in the data working group as some kind of a working group, but I believe we forgot to do that. So it fell into the cracks, I believe. So let's see if we can recover that. Yes, absolutely, because we are seeing new refreshed activity around citizen science and GEO that could benefit from having such a group.
Yeah. Yeah, so I see that Francesco, I'm on the verge of suggesting that you might be part of the coordination group planning this webinar, this dialogue on citizen science.
So I'm
on the
happy
verge.
to
Actually,
I'm happy
tipping
to
over.
see how to do. No, I'm happy to follow your knowledge on everything on this, Bente, for sure. But I'm sure maybe we can discuss maybe in the new year as well how to,
Yes.
if I'm relevant still after the content I share with you.
Oh, you are definitely relevant. So
Thank you,
and with
Bente.
Helen, you are representing also the ENRI, another in situ, a big in situ community, right? And
Yes.
so, and then we have ERSC, and then we have the ocean community and the standards community. I think this will be we are well situated to create a fantastic dialogue about the citizen science.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Then I will connect then with you, Bente, and then also
Yeah.
with Ellen and Joanne, in case I will have more information about the data readiness level. I will be happy to share it for sure.
Excellent.
Thank you, Bente.
Yeah, and now we were thrown into discussing in more detail here, and which is exactly according to plan. Also, to sort of visualize a bit what kind of discussions we want to include in the dialogue series. So we have Joan here. Joan, are you, and Helen? Maybe Helen, you will do it first to just recap very quickly what the in situ strategy is about in a little bit more detail, Ken, maybe.
Yeah, I can do that. I was going to kind of maybe wrap in a little bit of what we would like to try and draw into the next webinar as well. I did put together a few slides. So I just wanted to quickly mention that, as Bente and Marie-Françoise has already mentioned, we will have a dialogue series next year around in situ data and satellite observations and citizen science. Bente, I did modify the title slightly, but I'm happy to change it back. I was just having a kind of massaging of the wording while I was thinking yesterday. But what the focus is really about interoperability into practice. I think I may have spoken too soon. Oh no, that's good. So, but what I wanted to start off with is where we are with the, what's the starting point, the starting premise for this next dialogue, and it's very much focused around where we are with in situ in the context of GEO. So we've been working on the in situ data strategy, which it's already been mentioned, was approved by XCOM in October this year. And will be ratified by the plenary in May next year. Part of that activity has been really to try and highlight why in situ observations are important. I'm not going to go through this slide. I'm happy to share the slides afterwards, and then you can read this. But really the message is that in situ ground-based monitoring systems and satellite-based observations, they are an integral whole. And you need to have one, you need the other. And so that's kind of the premise that we worked with regards to the in situ data strategy. The strategy is very focused around addressing the incredibly heterogeneous in situ data landscape. In fact, Marie-Françoise very well characterized this earlier when she was speaking, when she said about how satellite data is much better organized and tends to be a more coherent whole, whereas because of the nature of in situ monitoring systems, the landscape is much more fragmented. So the in situ data strategy aims to try to put some boundary conditions around that within the context of GEO, so that we can think about how we should be addressing this very fragmented landscape. So within the strategy, it defines a number of overarching goals. The strategy is very much focused around coordination of in situ data providers, mobilization of the GEO community as a whole, which includes GEO members, the participating organizations, but it's also around engaging with in situ data users and ultimately advocating for in situ open data and knowledge. Because we need to change the mindset, not only in the GEO community, but more widely to ensure that in situ data management and sharing is an integral part of relevant research activities. This very much goes back actually to the point that Callum Cass made a little while ago around the importance of data management planning as well. All of these facets need to become part of the normal practice for research activities. But we also need to think about supporting this approach by delivering the tools, the policies and practices that are maximizing in situ data sharing. And I know Joanne is going to say something about the GREX tool shortly, so I'm not going to steal his thunder at all. The strategy has a number of objectives, and I'll go into this more during the webinar. So this is another reason for you to come along to the webinar in February. But the objectives are very much around better coordination of the in situ data community, around understanding the existing landscape, understanding what the barriers are to sharing open data, but also identifying the gaps and advocating for new observing networks where these gaps exist. And again, Joanne's going to say a little bit more about the tools that we're going to use to help us do that. Marie-Françoise a moment ago mentioned implementation. So we have this high-level strategy document, but what we're moving into now is the implementation phase. And this is where we really need to have those tangible actions that will move us forward from this high-level strategy document to tangible, practical activities within the community. So we need to be raising awareness. We need to be leveraging the GEO infrastructure and promoting adoption of the common data practices, data management practices. All of these things underpin that interoperability that we've been talking about. We need to think about the range of actors. We've also mentioned those already today. We're talking about GEO members. We're talking about the GEO Work Progremme Activities. We're talking about regional and national GEOs, but we're also talking about the wider community. And again, this is where citizen science comes into the picture. So just quickly, something about the approach with regards to implementation. I mentioned common data management practices. So we're thinking about data standards. We're thinking of widely adopted principles around fair care and trust. We're also, of course, thinking about the GEO data sharing and data management principles, but we also need the tools. And so we'll be thinking about the GEO Knowledge Hub. GREX is in here as well. Lib in situ, which Callum Cass mentioned, which was part of our previous onboarding webinar. Because these tools are all part of that implementation where we need to move to tangible actions. The last thing I wanted to mention is, and this comes back to the discussion we've just had, is we need to focus in on the role of citizen science. This was actually quite a timely discussion item today, actually, because I was involved in a meeting last week when I wasn't particularly well, actually, where we started talking about the need for formalization of the role of citizen science in research and of course, in Earth observation, because citizen science scientists are providing additional data collection and validation opportunities. They're augmenting and enhancing in situ monitoring systems. They're also bringing Indigenous knowledge as well. We should never forget the importance of that Indigenous knowledge. Citizen science is also allowing us to have crowdsourced data that is now increasingly being used by different agencies to support strategic goals, e.g. the sort of biodiversity and pollution studies. But the other thing, and I urge you to read this paper if you don't read anything else, because it gives a really good summary of why citizen science and citizen scientists matter. The headline in this paper, that's called "The Critical Importance of Citizen Science Data in the Frontiers in Climatology" by Sherbin and et al. It's actually 4 years old now, but it states that the key driver for democratizing science and promoting the goal of universal and equitable access to scientific data and information, the last part of it has fallen off, is citizen science. So we will be coming back to this in our webinar. And Francesca, this is why I think you and I need to have an exchange, because I really want to perhaps focus in a little bit on this topic in the webinar as well. And I think that might be my last slide, Bente. No, my last slide is just to remind you when we're going to talk about all of this in the context of the webinar. So sorry, Bente, I feel like I said an awful lot in a very short period of time then.
No, it was perfect, Helen. Thank you so much, because now we can zoom in, we get a gist of what we want to do with all the dialogues. And you gave a very good example of how we can starting to approach planning for the in situ, what we in short call the in situ dialogue. So thank you very much, Helen. do we have any questions for Helen?
Just Helen, if you can share maybe the title again of the paper, because it looks very interesting to read in advance. Thanks.
I will paste it in the chat for you now,
Thanks.
Francesca.
Yeah, thank you very much. And now the next one that is launched into this cyberspace here is Joan. We were discussing briefly that you could say a few words about new technologies. And of course, the GREX, which is mentioned by both Marie-Françoise and Helen already, and Kalamkas. But then we also have the issue of new type of technology or further development of existing technologies. This is, for instance, digital twins is like, it's not new, neither is artificial intelligence for that matter, but it has gotten, to the next level now. And data spaces is one of these new technologies that we need to address also, in my opinion, in the context of GEO. So, Joan, can you share with us some thoughts on this?
Yeah, I could. Thank you for giving me this space here in this webinar. Yeah, you asked me for two different things. The first one is the data spaces. I don't have any particular slide prepared about that, but I can speak about this a little bit. The data spaces is a kind of a technology that it seems to be invented by some companies that wanted to share particular technologies and information among them. It seems that it was designed by car makers in Germany to actually share information about some models of cars that they were designing. The whole idea is that you need to trust. You need to trust the members of the actual data space in order to allow transactions of information. Data spaces are not about open data, are more about restricted data. We know that we are advocating about open data in GEO, but we also know that there are reasons for having restricted data. One reason is personal information, another reason is protected species, etc. So in these cases, these technologies can be useful, and the European Commission, in their effort to actually create a digital economy in Europe, one of the efforts is the creation of 14 different data spaces. There are many flavors of those. There are data spaces on mobility, there are data spaces on health, there are even data spaces on tourism and so on. But the one that I know more is the Green Deal data space. And the Green Deal data space is, as the name says, data space that allows sharing of information relevant for the Green Deal. That means many things, but essentially means climate, biodiversity, circular economy, these kind of things. We have been working in more than one project. Actually, we have an European, an Euro-GEO action group on the Green Deal data space. We have been working on those projects in actually decide what the Green Deal data space is going to be. And finally, a project where I am that is called SAGE is going to propose an operational infrastructure to actually do that. Why this is relevant for GEO? I believe it's relevant for GEO because we cannot deny that there are restricted data that need to be exchanged in order to make some progress. So that's one thing. The other thing is that we were trying to engage with the private sector for a while, and that might be a possibility to actually create some kind of an infrastructure that allow them to have some kind of a business model around Earth observation in general, in parallel with the efforts that cannot be diminished of having also an infrastructure based on open data. And this is what we are trying to bring here in terms of this of this particular approach on sharing or exchanging data. As you said, digital twins, like for instance, the digital twins promoted by Digital Earth in Europe, are also part or wants to be part of this green digital space. Very known initiative that is called Inspired about the environmental data in Europe also wants or is going to be part of this green deal data space. How we are going to integrate data spaces in GEO, that's still a big question mark. That's something that needs to be discussed, and it's good that we have here in these dialogues some question marks, in order to create that dialogue. That is one thing. The other thing that you are asking me is about the tools that can accompany the in situ data strategy. And I have my own bias about one particular tool. The LEAP, for instance, the LEAP in situ was mentioned before several times. LEAP in situ is a library that will allow you to actually open and understand different formats about in situ and harmonize them and so on. That's one thing that we want to bring into the GEO infrastructure. But another thing is this idea of starting not only from the point of view of the producers. No, we have several producers in the yellow pages that are distributing in GEO. Remote sensing data, but also in situ data. That's the producer perspective. But what about the users? What the users really need? And in order to actually know that, we created or we are working with the EEA to contribute a tool that is called the GREX. And it's called GREX because it's a contraction of geospatial information requirements, no? Or geospatial in situ requirements. Actually, it sounds like a T-Rex, so it has this nice, Jurassic logo here with a small, line here that allows us to say that this is about measurements. No, somehow it's a big dinosaur, so it's a big measurement, but still a measurement. And if you go there, this is live in the internet, you have these two possibilities. You can go and see the requirements that has been captured so far, or you can go in here and add more requirements. So if you are an in situ user, you can go here to the in situ requirements to input one of those requirements. When you do that, you go to this form. It's quite simple. You have the point of contact, you populate where are you working, and then you specify your need. And by specifying a need, you need to say more or less which is the GEO Work Progremme activity that you are linked to. We have the post 2025 already here in the database. What is the type of need that you want, what you want to do with this in situ? No, one possibility, if I talk to Francesca, maybe she will tell me remote sensing, calibration, and validation. But there are many other things that you can do with in situ, of course. You can describe what is your need, the area of application, and then you can try and be more precise by telling us the requirements in terms of the typical things, the three components of the geospatial information: the thematic component, the temporal component, and the spatial component. Maybe you already know some data set that could match your need, maybe only partial. And what is the reason for that partiality? That's very important for us. So this is a particular section that you find here. You can provide us as many needs and as many requirements derived to those needs as you want. And of course, if you go to the other button, this is because we want to follow the data management principles. So we also want to make our requirements findable and accessible and all these things. If you go to the public button, you can select and see the different needs. You can see the different providers with the different organizations has collaboration with us. Most of them are organizations already related with GEO, the different needs they have provided, and the actual user requirements that they have. As I said, here you have some things about quality, the variable, the timeliness, all these typical parameters that you can expect. And also we try to classify this using the essential variables. And I want to mention that because this is one of the things that we want to use in the in situ strategy to at least to have some way of sort and classify the in situ providers. Let me just finalize by saying it is not only about gathering requirements, it is only about doing something with them. So let's say that at some point somebody has identified one of these requirements here. So what we try to do now in a very assisted form, very manual, but in the future maybe more automatic, we are trying to detect if there is some data available that you can use. If there isn't, then this precise requirement is stored into our GREX. And then several possibilities appear. We can detect or we can think about some sensor that could create the data set you want in the future. So then we can think about how we could collaborate in a group or whatever. Maybe it will be a NeuroGeo action group, maybe it will be in a GEO work plan activity, whatever. In finding some funding and deploying some sensors in the future, and then we have a matching between the requirement and the actual data sets available. We can also try and find some provider. We can contact him, and if it can provide that data set, then matchmaking. If not, we can try and loop here as many times as we can. We also can find a barrier, and this barrier could be maybe the data exists but is not available. You need to contact the user by email and beg him and tell him that you will behave in a fair manner and you get the data. So those barriers could be other more serious barriers, like it requires a lot of work to actually create the data set you want, but it's possible. So then we can detect some kind of an intermediate that could do that for you, and then the matchmaking exists. Or if those barriers exist, then we can try and use the convenient power of GEO to actually remove those barriers. This will generate a long-term matching, not an immediate solution, but at least is something. No? And the same here, if the gap is really identified and it's some kind of gap that is an aggregation of many requirements, then GEO can promote the creation of new data sets in a way that in the long term we can have a match. There is still another path that we see. Suddenly a company can produce a new type of sensor. This is happening quite often recently. So then we can examine the requirements database and maybe we find a match. And in this case, there is this other path that repeats here. So now that we have the database in place and some records there, we continue, of course, stimulating and engaging with people to provide us with their requirements. But it's not about just collecting, it's about having a process to actually solve the problem you have in terms of the need and requirement. So that's more or less how it works. Sorry, maybe that was too much detail, but it's just one way that we are working on to try and help the in situ data users.
Thank you very much, John. It was not too much. Actually, I think this is a very good example of how we can approach the design and the discussions of the dialogues in the future. For 2026. Because in order to make an implementation plan, we do have to go into details, right? And show people how they can implement it. So, and we cannot do everything in one go, but this definitely is a very good starting point and a natural starting point that will be useful for creating this implementation plan for the in situ strategy. And also, actually, not only that, but also for the open knowledge statement, because there are components that fits into the open knowledge statement as well. So there are some overlaps. So absolutely, thank you so much, both to Helen and Joan, to do this on a very short notice, by the way, so you know that. We appreciate it very much. And I think these problems or challenges that we have discussed now is of course, we want to support and engage with the GEO Work Program. I put the link to the GEO Work Program in the chat here because finding the entire work program is not very easy. That's why I provided that link, so you can get an overview of all the different activities, the current activities, the flagships, the initiatives, etc., is in one place. And of course, as Kalamkas showed us, that there was a great participants in the onboarding webinars already. So we hope to build on that and to engage further with those who were interested, and those who did not have time or for some reason could not attend the onboarding. This is another opportunity. And yeah, so I think we have 5 more minutes according to what I indicated in the invitation to the webinar. Do you have any questions and comments for Joan, for Helen, Marie-Françoise, Kalamkas, and me? Go ahead.
Well, yes, I would like to ask to the audiences if our message was clear about where we are, how we are organized, that we are open, that we want to tease and invite you to these dialogues next year, and we are open to discuss your use cases and so on. I would like to know if this message was clear and if you plan to join.
Yeah, maybe I can jump very quickly. I think this is a fantastic initiative. Definitely I will join, and in certain time I can, from my field, we can also contribute. So I really like this idea. It's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. And now I see, and apologies beforehand, but I will name some people here that I see is in. John White, first time participant. Feel free to take the floor if you want and tell us where you come from. That would, if you don't mind.
I'm in North Carolina,
Right.
in the U.S. I've got some experience in the distant past with data set management and all the things you guys just discussed, but I'm new to anything that's happened in the last 20 some years. Much more complex, but this is an excellent overview of what you guys are working on. I'm glad I could get online with it. Thanks.
You are more than welcome. And can I ask which fields? General data management, or were specific thematic application areas?
I'm a career meteorologist. I'm getting, no pun intended, immersed in hydrology recently. The lashing up the in situ data with the remotely sensed data is incredibly important. I think we sort of overlook that sometimes. You guys covered the waterfront pretty well. There's a lot for people to be aware of, and I think most users are not familiar with it. I hate to say they're ignorant of it, but it's just, you just go online, you get some data, and you think it's all just magic. But you guys really laid that out well. Thanks.
Oh, thank you so much, John, for joining us. And as you now know, you are more than welcome to become a part of this community. We really, yeah. This is a nice opportunity to have a dialogues with you, because we are not so many here, and we really mean what we say. We want to welcome everybody to join this community, and there's plenty of possibilities to both influence the topics that we will address, because that's what we really want to hear, where the pain points are, what the interest is, what you are struggling with, and what you can share of your experiences. So really underlining that everybody is welcome to join us. And the program will be published on the GEO Knowledge Hub for sure. And when we have more information about each of the dialogues, we will also publish that on the GEO website. And if you are on this email list, we will also share this information with you so you don't miss the opportunity to join, both as planners and as part of the community. Yeah.
Yes, and the idea is here that we really want to be open to listen to you. So you can bring your challenges, you can bring your use cases, so we can see if we can address or give some clues in the guidance, implementation guidance we will provide. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. If there's nothing more we want to add, I will ask Kalamkas and you, Marie-Françoise, you were already summarizing a little bit, but the floor is still open. But Kalamkas, do you want to have some concluding words?
Thank you, Bente. I would like to say thank you to the Data and Knowledge Working Group, entire working group, and everyone who is involved in all these activities, helping to disseminate this knowledge. And I think this is great foundational knowledge that everybody should know who is in Earth observation. Thank you so much, and thank you for attending this recap webinar, and hope to see you soon.
Yes, indeed. With those words, I think we can call it a day, and looking forward to see you all in 2026 for the dialogue series.